Hi everyone, I'm Courtney and welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody is having a good new year. At the time of this recording, it's just after the new year. And yeah, I hope that it's going really well for you and that you're looking forward to the year. But if you're not, I have been in that boat. And that's part of what I'll talk about today. So today's video, I want to recap how the 5-day juice cleanse went that I just completed. I started that on January 1st, a New Year's kind of cleanse. And then I want to talk about some of the things that I experienced in order to discuss points about emotions and emotions that come up when we do juice cleanses at times, and the topic of compulsive eating and how that's all related, addictive behavior with food. And so that'll be today's topic. So I suppose I'll start with a physical, like an update of the physical side of how the cleanse went. I mean, for me, that is not a big deal anymore. I don't actually struggle with cleansing physically really at all. I find it very easy, physically. So I have still been working, and actually even in the latter few days, I've been feeling very productive and very focused, and been feeling really good. And that's a common thing that many people experience on juice cleanses, is that they eventually start feeling quite creative and quite productive and wanting to do things. So that's been really good. I have not been drinking as much juice as I sometimes normally do, or as much juice as I recommend to people, so I don't always exactly practice what I preach. But I also know myself, because I've done so much cleansing, and so I kind of know what I can get away with, and I'm also not in the boat anymore of sort of being in danger of eating because I'm hungry, because I'm not drinking enough juice. So I did find myself hungry, but for me that's not a big trigger anymore. It used to be. That would be potentially a good topic, but I did a combination of making my own juice at home, green juice and some fruit juice, and then also buying some juice from juice bars and things. And yeah, because I didn't do a lot of juice, I didn't exercise a whole lot. I did some yoga. You can exercise on a juice cleanse to some extent. A lot of it just depends on how much juice you're willing to drink and make. So I've had people who have done pretty impressive feats of physical activity while they're on a juice cleanse, but sometimes they had to drink 4 quarts / liters, or 5 or 6. So that is often more the limitation than the actual physical activity that you can do. And that's why I recommend juice feasting for most people over juice fasting. Well, really for everyone. Juice feasting is usually a far better idea. So yeah, other than that, I've had fairly good energy throughout the day, maybe a little bit low at times because I was drinking less juice, which is also normal. If you don't drink enough juice, you will be more tired. But if you drink a lot of juice, you can actually get to the point where you won't notice any dip in your physical energy throughout the day, with the exception of potentially the first couple of days, because detox symptoms can cause you to be low in energy. So that can be a phase that you go through. But ultimately, after those first couple of days, if you're drinking enough juice, you should have as much energy as you did before, if not more for some people. I've been sleeping quite well, except for one night that I had insomnia, but that wasn't related to juicing. That's because I have anxiety. And so that means that I don't sleep sometimes. But other than that, I've been sleeping really well. And I noticed that when I do juice cleanses, I actually sleep less hours. I don't need as many hours of sleep, which is also common for juice cleanses in particular, but it can happen even with any improvement in your diet, or when you move towards a lighter diet that doesn't take as much digestive energy. And that's, there's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is that your body then doesn't have to do 2 things at night, right? Because what our body wants to do at night is repair, rejuvenate, and rest and do all the cellular processes and bodily processes that will rejuvenate us for the next day. But then a lot of times we tag on a second job to our body, which is digest all the food that I ate during the day or particularly at nighttime, while you're also trying to multitask and do this other thing. And so, you know, when you do a juice cleanse, your body doesn't have to use any of the energy at night to process your food. So it can just focus solely on the job of rejuvenating you. And so it doesn't need as long to do that because it doesn't have to multitask in the same way. So, so that's kind of a benefit of cleansing. But the main thing I wanted to talk about today was the emotional side. You guys know me. I'm super passionate about the topic of emotions and the human soul and how that relates to nutrition and the topic of healing food addiction, because that is something that plagues so many people and plagued me for most of my life, and at times, to some extent, still does. And so basically, I decided, yeah, why not? New Year's, I'll start a juice cleanse. I do like to, when I can, I like to do a little juice cleanse like seasonally. And so I had done one in the fall, and I thought, yeah, I'll do a winter one now. January 1st is a good time. I posted it about my social media and invited people to do it with me and things. And I woke up on the first day, and I was very upset that I was doing a juice cleanse. And to give a bit of background, I have been feeling, you know, I've been feeling challenged in regards to just things like my goals and my vision and my passions and my desires and, you know, things that you tend to think of when a year is finishing and a new year is beginning, right? It's the whole New Year's, what's going to happen in the next year kind of thing. And I know that some people can probably relate to that, you know? So I woke up that day not feeling at all in that New Year's spirit of like, it's a new year, like, I've got so many ideas and goals, I'm so inspired, and like, I didn't. And I felt really, just a lot of like emotions around that topic. And I know that I use food to suppress emotions, like that's not new news. So immediately I was like, damn it, like I want to just eat today. Like I don't want to have to do this juice cleanse. And I was aware though that I wanted to be able to eat because I didn't want to have to sit with these feelings. I didn't want to have to sit with how I was feeling about the new year. And even though I don't binge anymore, food and certain drinks definitely at times help me kind of like keep it all at bay so that I never really fully have to deal with it. Or not never, eventually I usually do, but I make it hard for myself on the way there. So I was just feeling super despondent and like grumpy and angry and annoyed, like not into it. But like has been the case many times for me before on juice cleanses, you know, I thought, well, this is an opportunity for me to feel some stuff that clearly I need to deal with that I've been avoiding. And so anyway, I spent a day, luckily day one for me, it was New Year's Day, so it was kind of a day off. So luckily day one, I wasn't working, so I spent the day just with the goal of dealing with some of those feelings. And so I did a mix of activities. I did some journaling. I watched some Divine Truth material. You guys have heard me talk about them before. They're amazing, beyond amazing. And I did some reading on some different topics kind of related to the emotions I was feeling, books, and ended up having a good rage, which I recommend to everyone, to have good rages every once in a while, where you're by yourself and you're physically and verbally expressing your anger and frustration in a very like overt way by yourself, like I said. But I did that, and I had several cries actually about the topics. And lo and behold, after a hard day of emotions, I felt more inspired after. I felt more creative after. I felt more productive after. And I have had this experience so many times now, but it was an illustration of of a few truths. And this is what I wanted to kind of highlight in this video. Illustration of few truths. One is that food can be a very effective suppressor of emotions. And that is why, for some of us, when we get on juice cleanses, we get very triggered, is because food and certain drinks, say coffee or things like that, have been continually keeping our real feelings at bay. We might be aware of them, they might come up a little bit, but when you remove that crutch altogether, then they tend to come up, more fully. And it also illustrates to me, again, the fact that the way that you get rid of an emotion is by feeling it and experiencing it. You can't meditate your way out of it. You can't think your way out of it. You can't affirm your way out of it. You have to feel it and express it. And it's just amazing how that releases the emotion, and then that leaves room for the positive feelings to come in afterwards. That kind of come in naturally just by the absence, or, the absence of those other feelings. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about with this is that, I was sharing on my social media, like, how I was feeling, and like, particularly that first day, and maybe a little on the second day, but particularly the first day, how that was a struggle, like a pretty big struggle for me. And someone left me a comment on that, one of the posts, that I thought was really honest, and probably what many people might be thinking, and a really good topic to talk about in this video. So I'm going to read their comment to you. I've got it in my little notepad. She wrote, "Is there any end for emotional struggle during the juice cleanse? To be honest, when I see that a juice fast pro like you, after all these years, still has to deal with the emotional struggle, I get a little discouraged." And I thought that was really honest because there's probably a point in time in my past where I would have felt the same way if I saw somebody who had been doing it for a long time still say that they found it hard at times. So the way I wanted to talk about that is, well, I don't think it's something to be discouraged by. I really don't, because my belief is that emotionally struggling on juice cleanses happens due to our resistance to feeling our deeper emotions that we might call negative. And a lot of times people struggle, like, over the course of their whole juice cleanse, like, they're just, every day can be a struggle. And that's because they're often not always getting to whatever the emotion is that is causing them to prefer it's often not a prefer, it's like a compulsion to, like, I'd rather eat instead. And I'm not saying that this particular person experienced that, because I don't actually know them. But yeah, I guess I would say that I think that if you notice that you're less emotionally struggling when you're eating, and then all of a sudden you get on the juice cleanse and it feels like an emotional struggle, that would tend to suggest that the food and drinks you were having before were covering these emotions over, and now that you're on the juice cleanse, they are not. But the emotional struggle isn't really about the juice cleanse, it's about our openness to experiencing some of those tougher emotions. And so many people find, and this has been my experience on this cleanse as well as on previous cleanses I've done, is that many people find that if you are willing to go into those more challenging emotions, that's when they release from you, or a piece of them, right? A lot of our emotional injuries you can't just release in one day or one cry. But, for the moment, for whatever the layer of the onion is that's coming up that day, if you experience it, then you can release it. And then when you release it, you feel totally differently about juice cleansing, about food. If you feel those emotions, you tend to feel less compulsive about food. It might still look good, might still sound good, you might still look forward to it, but it may not feel like a real strong battle. And you'll feel more at peace emotionally because you're not battling with your resistance anymore until the next emotion comes up. And then the next emotion, we've all got to make that choice again, and we have to make that choice again and again and again. And so that kind of brings me to the other point that I have, which is that my opinion is that we're all emotional beings. And so this issue of kind of struggling with emotions on juice cleansing is more of a issue of emotions than it is about juice cleansing. It's just that the juice cleansing tends to expose them. But my feeling is we never get sort of like non-emotional. I think that we're emotional beings, and until we've maybe reached a certain point of spiritual progression, we're going to have emotional, negative emotions that are going to come up, potentially for the rest of our lives on earth. And we've got to kind of be open to them, And I suppose the other thing I wanted to say is that, like in the bigger picture, sure, I still at times struggle emotionally on juice cleanses, but I actually don't always struggle emotionally. So this time I did, because there was something coming up for me in my life currently that I didn't want to like really deal with. But I've had plenty of other juice cleanses where I don't, so I found it always just depends on what's going on for me emotionally, what I'm resisting. And also, I don't struggle as much with juice cleansing now, or emotionally. I don't struggle as much emotionally on juice cleanses now as I did years ago, So it's definitely not like it feels the same emotionally. And that's not to sing my own praises. That's just to say that for anybody, this is true for anyone, is that I think that the more you work on the underlying issues over time, then it will become less of an emotional struggle to do it. And so yeah, I think, for anybody who might be feeling that way, don't be discouraged, because it doesn't, just because you might struggle emotionally with a juice cleanse or going vegan or whatever you're trying to do, eating healthier, it doesn't mean you can't eat healthier, you're not gonna achieve your weight goals or your health goals, or it's just a piece of the experience that we deal with when it comes up. And I think we can look at the emotional struggle in a curious and soft and compassionate way, because there's always something to be learned from the emotional struggle that comes up. And we can come out of it the other side, having gone through a really important emotional process and then feeling way better, and starting to chip away at some of our deeper pains and fears and things like that. So I hope that's helpful, and as always, you can ask me any questions. And I loved this comment because it was very honest, so you can always be honest as well with me. So you can email me through my website, which is courtneypoole.com, and you can also find me on most social media platforms as well if you'd like to get in touch. And I will see you all next time, and a Happy New Year to you again.